Carlos Bulosa, novelist, autobiographer, and poet, was one of the best-known Filipino-American that came into generation before the anti-immigration was shaken in 1935.
He was born in the rural Pangasinan province in 1911.
What's wrong, Dad?
It is not field anymore, son. It belongs to a man in Manila now. There's something wrong in our country when a man can take away something that belongs to you and your family. This is the end, son.
I'm starting to save to go to America, Father.
Listen to those bells, announcing the birth of another decade.
It was a goodbye, not only to my poor family, but also my childhood. I realized that my life there was too small to float the vessel of my desires. And as I stood on the deck, watching the fading shores of Manila, I knew I was leaving everything I had loved and known behind.
He arrived in Seattle in June of 1930 with 20 cents in his pocket.
My first sight of approaching land was an exhilarating experience. Everything seemed so familiar and so kind. I knew I would need to find a home in this new land.
Like other Filipino men in the anti-depression America, he found few opportunities for employment and substantial evidence of racial prejudice.
Any work here?
The only jobs around here are for cannery workers, agricultural workers, busboys, and dishwashers, if you're lucky. And it don't help that you ain't white.
He worked up and down the Pacific coast and wrote about his adventures, an account replete with the violence of brawls, beatings, an attempted lynching, and the murder of a labor union leader.
I came to know that in many ways, it was a crime to be a Filipino in California. I came to know that the public streets were not free to my people. We were stopped by these vigilant patrolmen each time we were seen driving a car.
Hey, Pim, where do you think you're going? Where you gone there, huh? I better not see you out here in these streets again.
And perhaps it was this narrowing of our lives from an island into a filthy segment of American society that had driven Filipinos like us inward, hating everyone and despising all positive urgencies towards freedom.
In Los Angeles, he reunited with his brother on the first night there.
I went into a pool room, saw two policemen dart in, shoot a little Filipino in the back, and then leave, as though the killing were just part of their daily work. I was bewildered.
They often shoot Pinoys like that when they're drinking and they want to have fun.
Why don't you complain?
Are you kidding? Get used to it. And don't expect to be able to live anywhere except the worst parts of town.
Carlos did not give up hope. He became involved in trying to better farming conditions by strengthening unions.
In Salinas, however, when Carlos and a friend were trying to organize farm laborers, they were kidnapped at gunpoint and taken to a field.
Are you Filipino?
Yes.
Your kind aren't wanted here. Give me any money you got. We'll have a drink, I'll get you rid of some brown monkeys.
And there, in the Salinas Valley, they were tarred and feathered.
But while America could be cruel, Carlos knew that it could be kind. As evidenced when a friend who, after being injured, was saved both by a passerby and a medical team at a hospital.
This paradox of America, being both so cruel and so kind, intrigues me. One minute, I'm beaten, and then the other, I'm being cared for and given money for school.
Carlos began traveling around the world, looking for hopes of a better America. He soon found that his hope went not only to his poor Filipinos, but also to others in poverty and trouble.
America is not a land of one race or one class of men. We're all Americans who have toiled and suffered and have known oppression and defeat. From the first Indian that offered peace in Manhattan to the last Filipino pea pickers. America is also the nameless foreigner, the homeless refugee, the hungry boy begging for a job, and the black body hanging from a tree. America is the illiterate immigrant who's ashamed that the world of books and intellectual opportunities is closed to him.
For Carlos, the task was not only to understand America, but to make it into a just society. He wanted the America of his dreams to become a reality.
Carlos then became sick and eventually was hospitalized with tuberculosis for 2 years. During this time, he educated himself by reading as many books as he could.
Then, in writing a letter to my brother, I realized, like a revelation, I could actually write understandable English. They can't silence me anymore. I can tell everyone what they've done to me. I can fight the world with my mind now, and not just my hands.
He began publishing stories and poems about his life in the Philippines. He became one of the most influential Filipino writers.
I began to rediscover my native land, and the cultural roots there nourished me. I felt a great urge to identify myself with the social awakening of my people.
Carlos always lived with the dream of making America into a just place. Unfortunately, his end came before he was ever able to see better working conditions for laborers or return to his native land one last time.
One night in Seattle, he was found unconscious on the lawn of the King County Courthouse. He was brought to Harborview Medical Center where he died of pneumonia in September 1956. He's buried in Mount Pleasant Cemetery where on his grave his self-written epitaph reads,
Here, here, the tomb of Bulusan is. Here, here are his words, dry as the grasses.